Hey, it's Kevin. Thank you so much for stopping by for another No BS social media chat. A recurring theme of conversations I have with people when we're talking social media is this struggle with people about being a social media being, a social person, and being private. And when I mean being social, I don't mean being social in real life, I mean online. It's the balance of being social, or at least social in terms of social media, and still maintaining some privacy. And a lot of people struggle with that. And I understand the struggle. I've been dealing with that. I've been, involved in the struggle of public versus private my entire life. Second generation broadcaster. I grew up in a household where my father was always in view, was always visible. And most of my stories in my younger days describe some of those things. My father never went out in a ball cap, never went out without shaving, even on the weekends, never went out in a t-shirt, or rarely wore jeans. And if they were, they were very nice jeans. I mean, and this goes back into the 60s and 70s and 80s when my father was still on the television, because he was a small town TV star. Everybody knew him, so he had an image to maintain. That wasn't all of who my father was. In fact, a lot of those people, other than knowing the guy from TV, didn't know who my father was. So I understood the need to balance public and private. And now that everybody's facing this, they're trying to balance the world of social media, their public persona, and their private world, and it's tough to do. I've been doing it my entire life, so while I understand the struggle, and sometimes even I struggle with it, it's not that big a difficulty to me, because you can still be both very social and be very private. If you look at my depth of work, if you want to call it that, online, I do a daily 60-second podcast, which is just topics I'm thinking about, talking about feelings, my life, what's going on. I do a video blog every week, my Road Warrior video blog, where it's just me riffing about something that's going on in my life, and you see my pictures and you see my life, and you think, boy, that's all for display, that's all in the public, but it's not, because there's a lot of thing that goes on in the background that I don't share with people. They don't need to know. And as I tell people, I mean, when I went through my divorce the first time, when I was still on the radio, I didn't share that with people. I was doing mornings, I was going through the process, but I didn't feel the need to share that. Now, after the fact, I talked about it a little bit, but I never went into great depth about it. I didn't discuss it because nobody needed to know. It's one thing to know you had a divorce. It's one thing, when it made good radio fodder, you use some of it. I talked about my current wife, the wife I've had now for going on 19 years now, and I can tell some stories, but there's still some things I keep private. There's still some aspects of our life I keep private. When it comes to having children, that's always a sticking point for a lot of people. In fact, there was a study the other day talking about how people are really wrestling with how they share pregnancy and how they share their children's lives. Because once you have kids, children become such a part of your real life. How do you share that and yet keep their privacy? You see that all the time with all the British royalty, the British monarchs, in struggling, not wanting to take pictures of all these paparazzi out looking for pictures of, is she Princess Kate, Lady Kate? I don't know. Of all these grandchildren of Queen Elizabeth, and it's like, or I guess now great-grandchildren, aren't they? Wow. And everybody's paying big money for the photos. Who cares? I understand the need to want to be private. I understand the need to not want to share with the world. And now us regular people are dealing with it too. And especially for my media clients and my music business clients, it's really a balance, because you still want to have a life, you still want to be a real person, and yet you sometimes can't. I always tell the story, when I was living in Akron, Ohio, working in radio, it's the home of LeBron James, and I followed LeBron because we dealt with him with basketball through high school and then into the pros. And one night we were eating, my wife and I, at the Outback restaurant in Akron, and all of a sudden LeBron walks in with his girlfriend. And LeBron is probably, I know he's out of high school by then, he was already a pro, he was still playing for the Cavaliers the first time, so maybe 20, maybe 21 years old. And just watching, and this is again social media, and watching people wanting to come up and get autographs, wanting to talk to him, wanting to say hello, wanting that connection. And I felt bad for LeBron, because here's a guy, because of a great talent, was never going to be a private individual. Sure, I'm sure there's some aspects of his life he doesn't share with people and they don't need to know, but everything he does, everywhere he goes, people are watching, people are paying attention, they're paying attention to what he's driving. He never escapes from it. Regular people like you and me, we aren't that, struggling. We aren't struggling with that struggle. But I know sometimes for my music business clients, they hope to be at that point. They hope to be having to worry about how they're going to deal with it. And it's a struggle, and it's a balance, but you can still, if you do it well, be social and yet be private. If you want to share more, if you want to talk more about it, go more in depth, I'm glad to do it, absolutely free. My phone number's coming up, my email's coming up, and of course we'll have more videos next week. We won't necessarily talk about privacy. Who knows what we'll talk about next week. NoBSSocial.com, the website, No BS Social, the channel on YouTube, also on our Intensity Media Facebook page. We post the videos there too, but again, you want to talk in depth, you know where to find me. Phone number, email, coming up next. We'll be back next week. Thanks.